This is Alex Fabrega coming at you again with another Teaching Tips Tuesday. Today I have with me Katie Bothun. How you doing today, Katie?
Hi, Alex. How are you? I'm doing
I'm
great.
I'm doing very well. You are an intern here at FBC, another one of our amazing Florida State interns.
Yes, go Knowles.
Mhm. Now, 2 weeks ago, I did a Teaching Tips Tuesday about Braille production, but I realized I hadn't done one just on Braille itself. So I figured you could come down and talk to the people about some Braille.
Of course, I'd be happy to.
All right. Well,
So,
yeah, go ahead.
sorry, were you going to say something?
No, go ahead. Just start off.
Okay.
Talk about Braille.
So Braille is a system of raised dots that allows individuals with experiencing vision loss to read using their fingers instead of their eyes. So Braille cells are set up of 6 dots. There's 3 side by side. We use kind of different spatial terms or numbers to describe those dots. It could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or top left, middle left, bottom left, and so on. So
And dots
Braille,
is the proper term for it. I think a lot of people are surprised to learn that they're just called dots. There's no fancy terminology in it.
yes, exactly. They look like dots, they feel like dots, and we call them dots.
It's a dot, yeah.
Very nice. So Braille, when we're writing Braille and reading Braille, one might notice that it can take up a lot of space, more than print does. So one print book might end up being 3 volumes when it's printed in Braille, because the dots take up just more space. So there is a Braille cell for every letter of the alphabet, but we also have something called contractions that helped kind of shorten the Braille to make it fit a little nicer into one page.
Okay, could you give
So
us an example of some contractions?
yes, so contractions, there are contractions for groups of letters, or there's contractions for whole words. For example, the word the, instead of writing THE in Braille, we can write one Braille cell that stands for the word the. Um, for example, also in my name, Katie Bothun, I have a contraction in my last name, TH. So instead of writing TH, I can just write one Braille cell to save me a little time while I'm writing Braille and reading Braille.
Yeah, it's amazing when a district gets their first Braille student in a long time, and you start delivering like those books and books and books of all those or those boxes full of books. And you're like, no, this is just one book that I'm loading onto
Mhm.
this shelf. Takes up an
Yes,
incredible
yeah.
amount of space. Yeah. Can you give us any context on the history of Braille?
The history of Braille. So Louis Braille was an individual who lived in France in the early 1800s. He was in school one day when a soldier came in with this idea that he decided to kind of take and adapt into the Braille code. So he developed a Braille code that is similar to what we use today, with the 6 dot system.
It's remarkable how little evolution there has been in how good of an idea it was that it has been able to stay so consistent for that
Mhm.
long.
Yes.
And I understand that English Braille had a relatively new transformation in it as well.
Yes, it did. You are correct. So in 2014, so very recently, all the English-speaking countries came together and kind of decided on one Braille code, so that way it would be consistent across many areas. There are some different Braille codes that are still out there, but when I started my program at Florida State University, I learned the Unified English Braille Code. So there was a previous version, and I started fresh with this new version that came about in 2014.
And we are very lucky to not have to have learned old Braille, which was called eBay, and then transition into new Braille, UEB. I imagine that would have been real frustrating.
Yes, yeah. So some people have definitely had to make those changes, but I think it definitely worked out well to have more consistency across English speaking countries.
Absolutely. I've been imagine it'd be very tough being in America than going to the UK and all of a sudden your literacy is so dramatically affected. All right. Well,
Yes.
thank you so much for coming on to Teaching Tips Tuesday today. I have one more question for you, Katie, and that is what is your favorite part of your job?
So my favorite part of my job so far that I've been experiencing in my internships is just seeing my students' success stories and just helping them get to reaching their goals. It's just very fulfilling, and I love seeing how excited students get. For example, when they start reading Braille and when they're learning those contractions and able to read a full sentence in Braille, or when they're able to use their cane to travel on their own to a store. It's just really exciting, and I'm just really looking forward to this career and helping more students learn.
Well, we are very glad to have you. And thank you to everyone at home for watching another episode of Teaching Tips Tuesday. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns that you want to have addressed on Teaching Tips Tuesday, please leave them in the comments. I will try and find an expert to have it discussed, and we hope to see you next week.